The colony ship Eternal Dawn drifted through the endless darkness of space like a wounded animal. Its engines had stopped working 3 days ago. The backup systems failed 2 days after that. Now, the ship floated in silence, carrying 4,000 souls who had nowhere to go. Captain stood on the bridge and looked at the stars through the main window. She was tall for with pale blue skin and large silver eyes that reflected the distant lights of dying suns. Her species was known across the galaxy for their peaceful nature. They were scholars, artists, and healers. They had never started a war in their entire history. But peace did not help them now. "Captain," said her first officer, a young male named. His voice was soft and tired. "The life support systems will fail in 18 hours, maybe less." Did not turn around. She already knew this. She had been counting the hours since their engines died. The Eternal Dawn was supposed to take her people to a new world, a fresh start away from the overcrowded planets of their home system. Instead, it had become their tomb. "Have we received any response to our distress signal?" she asked. Shook his head slowly. "Nothing, Captain. We are in the forbidden sector. No civilized species comes here. The pirates and slavers control this region of space." The forbidden sector. Closed her eyes and felt the weight of her failure press down on her shoulders. She had chosen this route because it was faster. She had wanted to save time, to get her people to their new home quickly. Now that decision would cost them everything. "Keep transmitting," she said. "Someone might hear us." Captain hesitated. "Even if someone hears us, they will not come. We have nothing to offer. No weapons, no valuable cargo. We are just refugees." Finally turned to face him. "Then we will die knowing we tried everything. Keep transmitting, that is an order." Nodded and returned to his station. His fingers moved across the control panel, sending their desperate message out into the void once again. In the lower decks of the ship, the passengers were beginning to panic. Families huddled together in the cold corridors. Children cried for food that was running low. The elderly sat in silence, accepting their fate with quiet dignity. A young mother named Sarah held her daughter close. The little girl was only 5 years old, too young to understand what was happening. She asked her mother why the lights kept flickering. She asked when they would reach the new world with the green fields and blue oceans. Sora did not have answers. She could only hold her daughter and whisper gentle lies about how everything would be okay. On the bridge, the communications officer suddenly sat up straight. His name was, and he was the youngest member of the crew. His hands trembled as he checked his equipment. "Captain," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "I am receiving a response." Rushed to his station. "From who? Which species?" Looked at his screen, and his face went pale. The color drained from his blue skin until he looked almost white. His large eyes widened with something that looked like fear. "Captain, the signal is coming from a human vessel." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and turned to look at. The word hung in the air like a curse. "Humans." Felt her heart beat faster. Like every species in the galaxy, she had heard the stories about humans. They were the monsters that parents used to frighten their children. They were the demons that lurked in the dark corners of space. The stories said that humans were born on a death world, a planet so dangerous that 90% of its life forms could kill you. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that lasted for centuries. They had climbed to the top of their food chain not through peace, but through violence. Other species had evolved to avoid conflict. Humans had evolved to win it. "Are you certain?" asked. Her voice was steady, but inside she was trembling. Checked his readings again. "Yes, Captain. The signal matches human communication patterns. They are asking for our coordinates." Stepped forward. "Captain, we cannot give them our location. Humans are. They are." "They are what?" asked. "Tell me, what choice do we have? We die in 18 hours. Maybe the humans will kill us. Maybe they will not, but at least with them we have a chance." She walked back to the center of the bridge and stood tall. Her people were watching her. They were scared, and she understood why. The stories about humans were terrible. They spoke of a species that did not know how to surrender, that would rather die than admit defeat. But the stories also spoke of something else, something that the other species did not like to talk about. Humans protected the weak. It made no sense to the galactic community. Why would a predator species waste resources defending those who could not defend themselves? It was illogical, it was inefficient, and yet the humans did it anyway. "Send them our coordinates," ordered. His hands shook as he typed the message. "Captain, once I send this, there is no going back. They will know exactly where we are." "I know," said, "send it." The message left the eternal dawn and traveled through space at the speed of light. It carried the hopes and fears of 4,000 souls. It carried the desperate prayer of a dying species. Somewhere in the darkness, something heard it. And something began to move. 3 hours passed. The temperature on the ship continued to drop. The passengers wrapped themselves in blankets and held each other for warmth. The children had stopped crying. They were too tired, too cold, too hungry. Remained on the bridge, watching the empty space through the window. She had made her decision, and now she had to wait. Either help would come or it would not. Either way, she would face whatever happened with dignity. Then's voice cut through the silence. "Captain, a ship just exited hyperspace." Looked at the sensor readings. Her blood ran cold. The ship that appeared on their screens was massive. It was painted black, like the void itself. Its hull was covered with weapons that they could not even name. It moved through space like a predator, silent and deadly. On its side, written in a language that could barely read, was a name. Dauntless. And beneath that name was a symbol that every species in the galaxy knew. The flag of the human fleet. They had come. Did not know if she should feel relieved or terrified. Perhaps both. She straightened her uniform and prepared to face the monsters that her people had always feared. "Open a communication channel," she said. The screen flickered to life, and for the first time in her life saw a human face. Admiral sat in his command chair aboard the Dauntless and stared at the distress signal on his screen. The message was simple. A colony ship was stranded in the Forbidden Sector. 4,000 civilians. No weapons. No protection. 18 hours until their life support failed. He read the message 3 times. "Sir," said his communications officer, a woman named, "the signal is coming from a vessel. They are asking for help." Leaned back in his chair and rubbed his tired eyes. He was 52 years old and he had been fighting wars for most of his life. His hair was gray now, and deep lines marked his face. But his eyes were still sharp, still full of the fire that had kept him alive through countless battles. "The Forbidden Sector," he said quietly, "that is pirate territory." "Yes, sir. Our intelligence suggests at least 3 major pirate fleets operate in that region. The Syndicate, the Blood Reavers, and the Void Wolves." Nodded slowly. He knew those names well. The pirates of the Forbidden Sector were not ordinary criminals. They were organized, well-armed, and absolutely ruthless. They captured ships and sold the passengers as slaves. They stripped vessels for parts and left the crews to die in the vacuum of space. "How many ships do they have in total?" asked. Checked her data. "Approximately 50 combat vessels, sir, maybe more." The bridge was quiet. Every crew member knew what those numbers meant. The Dauntless was a powerful ship, but 50 against 1 was a fight that no sane commander would choose. His first officer commander stepped forward. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a calm face. He had served with for 20 years, through wars and peacetime, through victory and defeat. "Admiral," said carefully, "they are not our allies. We have no treaty with them, no obligation to help them." "I know," replied. "If we go into the Forbidden Sector, we will be starting a fight with 3 pirate fleets at once. Our crew could die. Our ship could be destroyed. I know. Paused. Sir, with respect, why are we even discussing this? Stood up from his chair and walked to the main window. The stars stretched out before him, millions of tiny lights in the endless darkness. Somewhere out there, 4,000 people were waiting to die. He said without turning around, "Do you remember the colony on New Haven?" The commander's face changed. He remembered. 15 years ago, continued, a plague hit New Haven, killed half the population in 3 weeks. Every other species in the sector refused to help. They were afraid of the disease, afraid of the risk. He turned to face his crew. But we went anyway. We brought medicine, doctors, supplies. We saved that colony. I remember, sir. And do you remember what the High Council said when they heard what we did? Nodded slowly. They called us reckless. They said we were endangering ourselves for no logical reason. Exactly. Walked back to the center of the bridge. They could not understand why we would risk our lives for strangers, why we would fight for people who had never done anything for us. They called it foolish, irrational, dangerous. He looked at each of his officers in turn. But that is what makes us human. We do not help people because it is logical. We help them because it is right. The bridge was silent. Then one by one the crew members nodded their heads. They understood. Helm ordered, set a course for the forbidden sector, maximum speed. Yes, sir, the pilot replied. Tactical, prepare all weapons. Load the missile bays and charge the energy cannons. Understood, Admiral. Communications, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them where we are going and why. If we do not return, they will know what happened. Nodded and began typing. Her fingers moved quickly, but there was no fear in her eyes, only determination. The Dauntless turned toward the forbidden sector and began to move. The engines roared to life, pushing the massive ship forward at incredible speed. Stars blurred past the windows as they accelerated. In his private quarters, Admiral took a moment to look at the photograph on his desk. It showed a young woman with dark hair and a bright smile, his daughter, who had died 15 years ago in a shuttle accident. She had been only 18 years old. I could not save you, he whispered to the photograph, but I can save them. He put the picture back down and returned to the bridge. The journey to the forbidden sector took 6 hours. During that time, the crew of the Dauntless prepared for battle. They checked their weapons, tested their shields, and ran combat simulations. Every person knew their role and their responsibility. In the medical bay, the doctors prepared for casualties. They set up emergency stations and gathered supplies. They hoped they would not need them, but they prepared anyway. In the engineering section, the technicians worked on the engines and the power systems. They wanted every last bit of energy available for the fight ahead. Chief Engineer pushed her team hard, demanding perfection. If those pirates hit our power grid, we are all dead, she told them. So make sure nothing fails. Throughout the ship, the crew moved with purpose and focus. There was no panic, no fear. These were humans, and humans did not run from danger. They ran toward it. When the Dauntless finally reached the edge of the forbidden sector, ordered all crew to battle stations. Alarms rang through the corridors. Lights flashed red. Every soldier and sailor took their position. Said, send a message to the ship. Tell them we are coming. Tell them to hold on. The message traveled through space and reached the eternal dawn. Captain read it on her screen and felt tears form in her silver eyes. We received your signal. We are coming. Hold on. Simple words, but to the 4,000 souls on that dying ship, they meant everything. Turned to her crew. The humans are coming, she said. We need to stay alive long enough for them to reach us. Captain said nervously, what if the pirates find us first? Then we pray that the humans get here before they finish us off. At that moment, the sensor alarms on the eternal dawn began to scream. Multiple contacts, reported, his voice shaking. 53 ships just exited hyperspace around us. Looked at the tactical display. Her ship was surrounded. Pirate vessels had appeared on all sides, their weapons already charging. A new message appeared on the communication screen. It was from the pirate fleet. "This is Captain Gorin of the Syndicate. Surrender your ship and passengers immediately. Resist, and you will all die." His hands trembled. She had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back. The pirates had them completely trapped. "What do we do?" asked desperately. Closed her eyes. She thought about the humans who were racing to help them. She thought about the children in the lower decks, the families huddled together in the cold corridors. She opened her eyes and stood straight. "We stall," she said. "We give the humans time to arrive." "But Captain—" "Open a channel to the pirate ship. I will talk to them. I will buy us every second I can." She did not know if the humans would make it in time. She did not know if they could fight 53 ships alone, but she knew one thing for certain. She would not give up. Not while there was still a chance. Captain Gorin was a creature of nightmares. He stood 7 feet tall with thick gray skin covered in scars from countless battles. His species, were known throughout the galaxy as brutal warriors. They felt no mercy and showed no kindness. He looked at the helpless ship on his screen and smiled. His sharp teeth gleamed in the dim light of his bridge. 4,000 slaves, he said to his crew. The markets on will pay well for fresh, especially the children. His officers laughed. They had done this many times before. Find a weak ship, capture it, sell the passengers. It was easy money. The communication screen flickered, and the face of Captain appeared. Gorin studied her with cruel interest. She was trying to look brave, but he could see the fear in her silver eyes. "Captain Gorin," said, keeping her voice steady, "I request time to prepare my passengers for transfer. They are frightened. The children need to be calmed." Gorin tilted his massive head. "You are stalling." "I am trying to make this easier for everyone. If we cooperate, there is no need for violence." "There is no need for violence anyway," Gorin replied. "You have no weapons. You cannot fight us. You will surrender now, or we will cut open your hull and take your people by force." Swallowed hard. "At least give us 1 hour, let us." "You have 10 minutes," Gorin interrupted. "After that we start shooting." The screen went dark. On the bridge of the eternal dawn felt her hope fade. 10 minutes was not enough time. The humans were still at least 30 minutes away, according to her last calculations. They would not make it. Captain said quietly, "What do we do?" Did not answer. She walked to the window and looked at the pirate fleet surrounding them. 53 ships, all armed with weapons that could tear her vessel apart in seconds. There was no escape, no defense, no hope. She thought about praying. Her people believed in the old gods, the spirits of the stars who watched over the innocent. But the gods had never answered her prayers before. Why would they start now? Then's voice cut through the silence. "Captain, a new contact is entering the system." Spun around. "What kind of contact?" It is the human ship, Captain. The Dauntless just exited hyperspace." Hope flooded through's body like warm light. She rushed to the sensor display and looked at the readings. There it was, the massive black ship, appearing right at the edge of the pirate fleet's formation. But her hope quickly turned to concern. 1 ship against 53. Even for humans, those odds were impossible. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral looked at the tactical display with calm eyes. The pirate fleet surrounded the colony ship in a perfect sphere. Every angle was covered. Every escape route was blocked. 53 enemy vessels confirmed, reported. "They have noticed us. Several ships are turning to face us." "Good," said, "let them look." Commander studied the formation. "They have us outnumbered more than 50 to 1, Admiral. We cannot win a direct engagement." Smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something dangerous in it. "Do you remember the Battle of Iron Gate?" Of course, sir. We were outnumbered 20-1 in that fight. And what happened? Allowed himself a small smile as well. We won, sir. Exactly, stood up from his chair. Tactical, target all enemy vessels, prepare a full barrage. The tactical officer, a young man named, looked at his console with concern. Sir, we do not have enough weapons to destroy all of them at once, if we spread our fire too thin. We are not going to spread our fire, interrupted. We are going to concentrate it, target the flagship first, take out their leader, and the rest will lose their coordination. Yes, sir. The Dauntless began to move forward directly toward the pirate fleet, its weapons powered up, glowing with deadly energy. The ship cut through space like a blade, fast and silent. On the pirate flagship, Captain Goran watched the approaching human vessel with growing anger. How dare they interfere with his hunt? How dare one ship challenge his entire fleet? All ships, he commanded through the fleet communication channel, destroy that human vessel. Leave nothing behind. 30 pirate ships turned away from the colony ship and flew toward the Dauntless. Their weapons opened fire, sending streams of energy and missiles across the void. On the bridge of the Dauntless, alarms screamed as the enemy fire approached. Incoming missiles 120, announced. Energy weapons firing. Activate point defense, ordered, all batteries. The Dauntless came alive with defensive fire. Thousands of small guns on its hull began shooting, filling the space around the ship with a wall of projectiles. Missiles exploded before they could reach their target. Energy beams scattered against the ship's thick shields. Shields holding at 92%, reported. Return fire, commanded. Focus on the flagship. The Dauntless answered with its main weapons. Massive energy cannons fired beams of pure destruction across space. They struck the pirate ships with incredible force, cutting through their hulls like paper. 2 pirate vessels exploded instantly. 3 more began to drift, their engines destroyed, their crews screaming into the void. But more pirates were coming. The rest of the fleet had abandoned the ship and was now converging on the Dauntless, 50 ships against 1. They are surrounding us, observed. Good, replied. That is exactly what I wanted. Looked at his admiral with confusion. Sir. Activated the ship-wide communication system. His voice echoed through every corridor, every room, every deck of the Dauntless. All hands, this is Admiral. We are about to engage the entire pirate fleet. The odds are against us. The enemy outnumbers us 50-1. By every logical measure, we should not win this fight. He paused. But we are not fighting by their logic. We are fighting by ours. Those pirates have spent their lives preying on the weak, attacking those who cannot defend themselves. Today, they face something different. Today, they face us. The crew listened in silence. We did not come here to hide. We did not come here to negotiate. We came here to fight. And we are going to win, because that is what humans do. We win. Turned off the communication system and looked at his bridge crew. Every face showed determination. Every eye showed fire. Helm, he said, take us into the heart of their formation, full speed. Yes, sir. The Dauntless accelerated forward, plunging into the center of the pirate fleet like a spear thrown at the heart of an enemy. Ships scattered to avoid collision. Weapons fired in every direction. And in the middle of it all, one human ship fought against an army. On the eternal dawn, Captain watched the battle with amazement and horror. The humans were not running. They were not hiding. They were attacking, driving straight into the enemy with no regard for their own safety. They are insane, whispered. Shook her head slowly. No, she said, they are human. The battle had just begun. The battle lasted 90 seconds. 90 seconds that changed everything. The Dauntless moved through the pirate fleet like a storm of destruction. Its weapons fired in all directions, filling space with beams of energy and streams of missiles. Ships exploded left and right. Fire bloomed in the darkness like deadly flowers. Admiral stood in the center of his bridge, calm and focused. Around him, his crew worked with perfect precision. They had trained for this. They had lived for this. Target destroyed, reported as another pirate vessel vanished in a ball of flame. Switching to next target. Enemy ship approaching from port side, called out, firing countermeasures. The Dauntless spun to face the new threat. Its guns roared, and the attacking ship broke apart under the assault. Debris scattered across space, crashing into other pirate vessels. On the pirate flagship, Captain Gorin watched the destruction with growing terror. He had never seen anything like this. One ship was destroying his entire fleet. "Concentrate fire on them," he screamed into his communicator. All ships attacked together. 20 pirate vessels obeyed. They formed a line and fired their weapons at the same time. Hundreds of missiles and energy beams flew toward the Dauntless in a wave of destruction. The human ship did not retreat. Instead, it accelerated directly into the attack. "Shields to maximum forward," ordered. "Brace for impact." The wave of fire hit the Dauntless with incredible force. The ship shook violently. Crew members grabbed their stations to stay standing. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. "Shields down to 60%, reported. "Push through," commanded. "Return fire." The Dauntless emerged from the fire storm with its weapons blazing. Its main cannon struck the line of pirate ships with devastating accuracy. 1, 2, 3, 4 vessels exploded in rapid succession. The formation broke apart as the surviving ships tried to flee. But there was no escape from the Dauntless. It pursued them relentlessly, hunting them down one by one. On the eternal dawn, Captain watched the battle with her mouth open. She could not believe what she was seeing. The humans were not just winning, they were dominating. "The pirate fleet is breaking," reported, his voice filled with amazement. "They are trying to run." "Running will not save them," said quietly. He was watching the human ship cut through the enemy like a knife through water. The pirate captain, Gorin, finally understood the truth. He could not win this fight. Every second, more of his ships were being destroyed. The human vessel was unstoppable. "Retreat," he commanded. "All ships retreat, jump to hyperspace." The surviving pirates tried to flee. Their engines powered up as they prepared to escape into hyperspace, but the Dauntless was ready. "They are trying to run," observed. "Not today," replied. "Target their engines, disable them." The Dauntless shifted its fire. Instead of destroying ships, it began crippling them. Precise shots hit engines and navigation systems. Pirate vessels stopped dead in space, unable to move, unable to escape. Gorin watched helplessly as his flagship's engines were destroyed. His ship drifted to a stop, powerless and defenseless. Around him, the remains of his fleet floated like broken toys. 53 ships had attacked the human vessel. In 90 seconds, only 12 were still functional, and none of them could run. The battle was over. Admiral looked at the tactical display with satisfaction. The enemy fleet was destroyed. The colony ship was safe. His crew had performed perfectly. "Casualties?" he asked. "Minor injuries only, sir," the medical officer reported. "No deaths." Nodded. "Good work, everyone." He turned to open a channel to the ship. The screen flickered, and Captain's face appeared. Her silver eyes were wide with shock. Behind her could see other crew members staring at their screens in disbelief. "Captain," said politely, "I am Admiral of the human fleet. We received your distress signal. Are your passengers safe?" Tried to speak, but no words came out. She had just watched a single ship destroy an entire pirate fleet in less than 2 minutes. Her mind was struggling to process what had happened. Finally, she found her voice. We are safe, Admiral, thanks to you." "Good. We are sending repair teams to help fix your life support systems. Once your ship is stable, We will escort you to the nearest friendly port." "Admiral," said slowly, "you saved 4,000 lives today. You risked your ship, your crew, for strangers. Why?" Considered the question. It was the same question that every alien species asked when humans came to their rescue. Why did humans help those who could not help them in return? Why did they risk everything for nothing? "Because you needed help," he said simply. "That is all the reason we needed." On the disabled pirate flagship, Captain Gorin sat in his captain's chair and trembled. He had terrorized the Forbidden Sector for 20 years. He had killed thousands and enslaved thousands more. He had never been defeated. Until today. Until the humans came. A message appeared on his communication screen. It was from the human ship. "Captain Gorin, you and your surviving crew will be taken into custody and transported to stand trial for your crimes. Any resistance will be met with lethal force. Surrender now." Gorin stared at the message. His hands shook. His entire body felt cold. He had heard the stories about humans. Everyone in the galaxy had. But he had never believed them. He thought they were just legends, exaggerations, myths told to frighten children. Now he knew the truth. The stories were not exaggerations. If anything, they had understated the horror of what humans could do. "We surrender," Gorin whispered. Throughout the galaxy, news of the battle spread like fire. A single human ship had destroyed a fleet of 53 pirates. A single human ship had saved 4,000 innocent lives. The other species watched the recordings with a mixture of fear and amazement. They studied the battle footage, analyzing every move the human ship had made. They looked for weaknesses, for limitations, for some sign that humans could be defeated. They found nothing. On a diplomatic station in neutral space, ambassadors from 12 different species gathered to discuss what had happened. They were the leaders of the galactic community, representatives of ancient civilizations that had existed for thousands of years. "The humans are becoming too powerful," said the ambassador. "Today they saved our people, but tomorrow they could destroy us all." "They showed no mercy to the pirates," observed the ambassador from the Empire. "They were efficient, brutal. And yet they hurt no innocent beings," another ambassador pointed out. "They rescued them without demanding payment or reward." The room fell silent. This was the part that the galactic community could not understand. The humans had the power to conquer, to destroy, to rule, but they did not use it that way. They used it to protect. And somehow, that was even more terrifying. On the Dauntless, Admiral reviewed the damage reports. His ship had taken some hits, but nothing serious. The crew was tired but proud. They had done their job. Commander approached him. "Admiral, we are receiving messages from across the galaxy. News of the battle is everywhere. Everyone is talking about what we did." Shrugged, "Let them talk." "Sir, some of the messages are concerned. Other species are frightened by what they saw." "Good," said quietly. "Maybe they will think twice before attacking innocent ships in the future." He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 4,000 were celebrating their survival. Families were holding each other. Children were laughing again. That was what mattered. Not the fear of the galaxy, not the power of the human fleet, not the political consequences of what they had done. Just the lives they had saved. "Plot a course for the nearest," ordered. "They need a safe place to rest. Let us get them home." The Dauntless turned toward friendly space and began its journey. Behind it, the wreckage of the pirate fleet drifted in silence. 3 days after the battle, the Eternal Dawn docked at Harmony Station, a neutral trading post on the edge of civilized space. The passengers walked off their damaged ship and stepped onto solid ground for the first time in weeks. Captain stood at the boarding ramp and watched her people leave. Families held hands as they walked. Children pointed at the strange new sights with wonder in their eyes. The elderly moved slowly but with grateful smiles on their tired faces. They had survived. Behind the eternal dawn, the massive human warship Dauntless sat quietly in a nearby docking bay. Human engineers and technicians had worked day and night to repair the ship's life support systems. They had asked for nothing in return. Not money, not trade agreements, not political favors. They had simply helped. Admiral walked down the ramp of his own ship and approached Captain. He was wearing a simple uniform, nothing fancy or decorated. Up close, could see the weariness in his eyes. This was a man who had seen much and carried the weight of many responsibilities. Captain said with a slight bow of his head, "Your people look well. I am glad we could help." Studied the human carefully. She had spent the past 3 days thinking about what had happened. She had watched the battle recordings dozens of times, trying to understand. "Admiral," she said slowly, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why did you really come? The truth, please, not just because we needed help." Was quiet for a moment. He looked at the passengers walking past them, the families and children and elders who had been so close to death. "When I was young," he said finally, "my people went through a terrible war. Millions died, entire cities were destroyed. The universe seemed dark and hopeless." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "After the war, my grandfather told me something I never forgot. He said that the true measure of a species is not how they treat their friends, but how they treat strangers. Anyone can be kind to those they love, but only the truly good help those they have never met." Listened in silence. "I became a soldier because I wanted to protect people," continued. "Not just humans, everyone. Every innocent being in this galaxy deserves a chance to live in peace. When I heard your signal, I did not think about politics or alliances or what my government would say. I thought about 4,000 people who were about to die, and I knew I had to help. Even though you could have died yourself." Smiled sadly. "Yes, even then, that is what it means to be human. We do not calculate the odds before we act. We do not weigh costs and benefits when lives are at stake. We simply do what is right and accept the consequences." Felt tears forming in her silver eyes. For her entire life, she had been taught that humans were monsters, dangerous predators who would destroy anything in their path. But the reality was so much more complicated. Humans were dangerous. That was true. But they were dangerous because they cared, because they would fight and die for people they had never met, because they refused to stand by while innocents suffered. "Admiral," said softly, "my people owe you a debt we can never repay." "You owe me nothing," replied. "Just live well, raise your children in peace, build a good life on your new world. That is all the payment I need." In the weeks that followed, the story of the Dauntless spread across the galaxy. Every species heard the tale of how a single human ship had saved 4,000 from certain death. The recordings of the battle were watched billions of times on every inhabited world. Some species reacted with fear. They saw the overwhelming power of the human vessel and worried about what would happen if humans ever became hostile. They began building stronger defenses and forming new alliances, preparing for a war they hoped would never come. But other species reacted differently. They saw the same power and asked a different question. Why would beings so strong use their strength to protect the weak? Why would warriors so deadly show such compassion? The young mother Sora, who had held her daughter during the darkest hours on the eternal dawn, told her daughter the story of what happened many times as she grew up. The little girl listened with wide eyes as her mother described the fear they felt when the pirates surrounded them, and the hope that bloomed when the human ship arrived. "Were the humans scary?" the girl asked. Sora thought about the question for a long time before answering. "Yes," she said finally. "They were very scary, but not to us, only to those who would hurt us. To us they were guardian angels, protectors sent from the stars." The girl smiled. "I want to meet a human someday." "Maybe you will," Sora replied. "Maybe you will." On the pirate worlds of the Forbidden Sector, Things changed after the battle. Word spread quickly about what had happened to Captain Gorin and his fleet. The most powerful pirate in the region had been destroyed by a single human ship. Other pirates began to think twice before attacking innocent vessels. The fear of human retaliation hung over them like a dark cloud. What if their victims sent a distress signal? What if the humans came? Slowly, the forbidden sector became less dangerous. Trade routes that had been closed for decades reopened. Ships traveled through space without fear of attack. The shadow of the pirates began to fade. All because of one battle, one ship, one choice to help strangers in need. In the galactic capital, diplomats and politicians debated what to do about the humans. Some argued for stricter controls, new treaties that would limit human expansion and power. Others suggested alliances, partnerships that would tie the humans to the rest of the galaxy. But an old diplomat, who had watched her species nearly die in the darkness of space, stood up and spoke. "We have been asking the wrong questions," she said to the assembly. "We keep asking how to control the humans, how to limit them, how to protect ourselves from them. But we should be asking a different question. We should be asking why they are the only ones who answered that distress signal." The chamber fell silent. 53 pirate ships surrounded a helpless colony vessel with 4,000 civilians. 53 ships, crewed by species from across this galaxy. Not one of them showed mercy. Not one of them offered help. They came only to kill and enslave. She pointed at the assembled diplomats. And what did the rest of us do? Nothing. We heard the distress signal too. We all heard it, but we did nothing. We stayed in our safe territories and let those people die. Her voice rose with emotion. Only the humans came. Only they risked everything to save strangers. And now we sit here debating how to protect ourselves from them. Perhaps we should be asking ourselves why we needed protection in the first place. Perhaps we should be asking what kind of galaxy we have built, where pirates can terrorize entire sectors and no one lifts a finger to stop them. The diplomats shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The old spoke a truth that many did not want to hear. "The humans are not our enemies," she concluded. "They are our mirror. They show us what we could be if we had the courage. They show us what it means to truly care about life, about justice, about protecting the innocent." She sat down heavily, suddenly tired. "The humans horrify us because they remind us of our own failures. And perhaps that is exactly what we need." Far away in the depths of human space, Admiral returned to his normal duties. He did not consider himself a hero. He had simply done his job, followed his conscience, helped people who needed help. But sometimes, late at night, he would look at the photograph of his daughter on his desk. He would think about the children on the eternal dawn, the families who would grow old together, the lives that would continue because he had made a choice. And he would smile. The galaxy would always fear humans. They would always whisper stories about human power, human violence, human determination. They would always wonder what would happen if humans ever turned their strength against the innocent instead of for them. But as long as there were humans like Admiral, those fears would remain just fears. Because humans did not protect the weak because it was easy. They did not fight for justice because it was safe. They did it because that was who they were. And that, more than all their weapons and warships, was what truly horrified the galaxy. Because it meant that humans would never stop, never surrender, never abandon those who needed them. No matter the cost. No matter the odds. No matter what. And in a galaxy full of ancient species who had forgotten how to care, that simple truth was the most terrifying thing of all.